it's his anniversary tonight. He's out celebrating. Yeah.
Okay, so we will not have him tonight. Perfect. Thanks, Adam. Okay, go ahead and start the webinar, please, Maggie.
Recording in progress.
And we'll give our attendees a few minutes to populate. And then let's go ahead and start the meeting. I'll start by welcoming several staff members who will be participating in various ways tonight. But first and foremost, we want to welcome Maggie Rodriguez. She has been working for the city for the last several years as an admin assistant in our administrative services department. And about, I don't know, Maggie, 7-8 months ago, that department was generous enough to share her time half with the city manager's office as we had laid off a position during the pandemic, Bob's executive assistant role. And she did such a good job filling it that when it was time to refill that position, she applied and was the obvious candidate. So she is now the executive assistant in the city manager's office. And as part of her new duties, she will be clerking our meetings for us. And so she'll be joining us each month and getting to know all of you commissioners. She's really great, lives in the community. Maggie, why don't you provide a little introduction beyond what I just shared?
Sure. Well, I'm Maggie. It's nice to be here. I live locally on the coast side in Moss Beach with my family. I have 3 young kiddos, and we love living here, and I love being able to work for in the community that I live in.
Yay. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to put her to work. Let's do a roll call.
All right. Commissioner Black.
Here.
Commissioner Eisen.
Here.
Vice Chair Eisen. Vice Chair Eisen.
We'll take the bright red lights as Tim being here.
Okay. And Chair Stamper.
Yeah, here. Yeah.
Here. Here.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Great. Okay, we'll turn it over to the chair to go through the agenda.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to actually pull up the agenda. So, okay, this will just take 1 second. There we go. Okay, so the first question is the minutes. Do we have an approval of the minutes from the March 23rd meeting? Let's see, do I have to say, can someone make a motion to do that? Or can I just?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I second it.
Perfect. Let's go. All in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
We have to do a roll call.
Okay, I heard 2 ayes. Here's a 3rd eye.
Okay. Roll call. Commissioner Black.
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Eisen.
Yes.
I've been guilty of that.
Vice Chair Eisen.
Yes.
Chair Stamper.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the only announcements for tonight would just be to put a plug in for this Saturday. As most of you know, this past Friday was Earth Day. And I'm not even sure, I think it was the State Parks Association put on a really great event at Kelly State Beach, Wildflower Day. It's a great event. We had a table there staffed by Taylor from our recreation division and Bob, our city manager. And Bob, did the bike patrol folks make it? Oh, there he is. They did.
You're muted, Bob.
They did. Yeah, they had their own tent. Yep.
Oh, they had their own tent. Very fancy.
Well, they had a ski patrol tent, but then they put the word bike over ski, and that was their tent.
Very nice. Very nice. So it sounds like it was a really great event, good weather and well attended. So this Saturday is the city's events. So in the morning is the recycling and composting event at Smith Field that we've traditionally done for Earth Day that Public Works is staffing. And then starting, I think at 11 o'clock, there will be a very small, just the first step towards a greater Earth Day here on the coast, little fair in the parking lot of Cameron's that the chamber is putting on. And there will be several agencies staffing booths, including Public Works for the city. We had hoped for a few other activities. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the collaboration that we needed for this year. So this will be the first step, and we'll continue to build towards more events in the future. But we do encourage you to, if you have recycling or compost, recycling to deliver or compost to pick up, come to Smithfield in the morning and then stop by the fair at Cameron's Inn on Saturday. I think that's from 11 to 1. That's all I have. Bob, do you have any announcements that would pertain to this commission?
No, I don't. Thanks, Matthew.
Okay. And any commissioners have any announcements that they need to make?
Nope.
Okay.
Next, are there any public comments about things that are not on the agenda? If you have a public comment that's not for an item on the agenda, go ahead and raise your hand. I'm looking for participants. Not seeing any raised hands. Go ahead and chat if you're trying to raise your hand and it's not working. Okay. Not seeing any chats. So let's go on to the next thing, which is staff informational reports.
Thank you. I just have a few brief reports today. We've had 2 council meetings since our last commission meeting. On April 5th, it was a short meeting, but an interesting meeting. I think the 2 items that are of note to you all is that the council finalized the approval of the districts for our district-based voting. And so our clerk's office is now working with the elections office to finalize those districts and prepare them for the election. And then per an item that came up during our priority setting and wasn't listed as a priority, but something that you were all interested in, our mayor invited an individual. He's a professor at CSM and comes from a family that historically built aerial trams in Europe and in the United States. He came and he spoke about what an aerial tram between Half Moon Bay and the Bayside could look like. And hopefully many of you attended. It was interesting and thought-provoking. Parts of it made me think, yeah, we could do that. And parts of me made me think, we can't do that. So I think that was the intent, right, is to get people's juices flowing and get some excitement building. And I think it did just that. I think what it showed us is that to do something like that, it's a serious undertaking that would require a lot of collaboration, but certainly something that could be explored in the future. Given that that was an idea that came out of here and it aligned with something one of our council members were thinking about, any comments or thoughts from that?
Thought that the guy seemed really sort of convinced that there were a lot of grant possibilities for this. So I thought that was interesting. He clearly thought, okay, there's funding. We just have to go out and get it. I questioned how true that was, but certainly it's the right kind of thing for both Half Moon Bay and our climate crisis to be getting cars off the road. So, and it's aligned with Coastal Commission goals of getting people to the coast and coastal access in California. So, I mean, that too is a really nice thing. And then it ties in finally, obviously, with the whole idea of recreation and paths and pedestrian ways and bike paths that we're working on here as well. So it's just so obvious as a like synchronous type of big picture idea that would really tie together so many goals that we have here. So I was obviously like very excited about this idea beforehand, and I loved seeing his vision and thinking about all of that afterwards. So I was really appreciative that the city did that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great project. You know, I don't know if you remember, Matthew, but I've talked about this for years. And I brought it up with Don Horsley, and I realized he's being termed out. But initially, a couple of years ago, he was kind of like, well, that sounds like a really interesting idea. Because I look at it as a county project, not a Half Moon Bay project in terms of investment. Because that's how it would have to be done from my perspective, is that it's really a San Mateo County giving more access to the coast, and then also taking an environmental and a tourism stance on it. So I just think there's a lot of possibilities with it. It was interesting to learn about the obstacles. I realized, that there's definitely pieces that are somewhat difficult, but I think they can be overcome. And then the grant possibilities, I think, are off the chart. So I still think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I echo that. I think it's a great idea because we have to do, the number one issue for all coastsiders is traffic. That is the thing that comes up again and again. So anything, there are lots of things people don't agree on. This is the one thing everybody agrees on, that we've got major traffic issues here. And so anything to step out of the box and come up with a more unique plan for how to deal with this, sort of trying to widen things that are not going to be able to get widened. I think that's definitely a way forward for us. So definitely in favor.
Great. Thank you for the feedback and the input, and agreed that this is something that I think people will continue to look at. I think, to your point, Commissioner Eisen, or Vice Chair Eisen, it's a public-private partnership. It's going to take the city, it's going to take the county, it's going to take the state, it's going to take private businesses. Yeah. I'm sorry, Commissioner Black?
I was just thinking about the federal government as well, because it's definitely, I think it's doable. It's just gigantic. And so, looking at it from that perspective, and I often think about it when I'm coming over the hill.
Sitting in traffic, staring at the hill.
Well, yeah, coming over the hill and you're thinking about a tram. The thing about it is that you have to have a vision. You have to have, you have to come up with stuff. And I think this is a wonderful step. And, there's a lot of smart people here, and somebody's going to link it all together. And I think it's a good idea, personally. Have you ever been on a tram? That's the thing, it'll be interesting.
Cool. On April 17th, we had a meeting as well, and a couple of notable items there. The first was there was a proclamation honoring the farmers market on its 20th anniversary this year. And, what an incredible blessing to have this wonderful market here on the coast. And you can rely on it being there every weekend during the season, which really runs like spring through fall. It's like a 3-season market. And Erin Tormey, who founded the market, and her team have just done such a phenomenal job. They also do the farmers market in Pacifica. So they really provide for the coast side access to healthy foods in a safe environment. It was interesting at the beginning of the pandemic, there were a lot of concerns that people raised about the farmers market. And so we engaged with Erin, and she just was like, you have no idea how heavily regulated we are. And we're setting the standards for safe access to foods in a way that the supermarkets can't compete. And it was true. They really did provide really safe access to food and a safe space during the pandemic. So it was great to honor them, and we hope that there's at least 20 more years of that farmers market in our future. There was also an item, Victor, who's joining us tonight a little later on, presented on the Leadership Awards. This is our annual scholarships that we provide to students at the high school and middle school, and the applications are currently open. Victor, there will be some judges from this commission this year?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm actually going to reach out to both the chair and the vice chair, because typically we ask the chair, the vice chair, and then the vice mayor to help us in reviewing the applications and selecting the winners for each year. So I'll be reaching out to Chair Stamper and Vice Chair Eisen very shortly. Applications close next Friday the 5th.
Perfect.
Great. So if any of you know students at the middle or high school level, please make sure they know about this opportunity. Sometimes we have a lot of applicants, and sometimes we only have one per category. So, and they're by age, and it's a fairly simple application process. So get the word out. There was also a proclamation honoring declaring May as Mental Health Awareness Month. There's an initiative among our local mayors to really promote this year, and the city's participating at several levels. You'll see a green flag flying on City Hall starting on the 1st, and that is representative of Mental Health Awareness Month. Our communications team partnered with Victor in our community services division to put together a lot of different activities and information around mental health. So you'll be seeing those in your newsletters and in your mailbox over the next month. And we've also partnered with the county to provide what's called mental health first aid training, which helps individuals to just be that first line of defense. It's like normal first aid or CPR training to help people in crisis get the support that they need. We think that's really important, and I think that's very pertinent to this commission. The big item on the agenda was the award of the contract for construction of Carter Park. So that is official, and we just want to thank this commission for all their work to help identify that as a priority and to help us create the vision and get us to today. It's been a long road, but for a project like this, it's actually been kind of a short road. So all of your work and dedication has really made that happen. We're in the process of planning the ribbon cutting in the next couple of months. And the goal is to have the park open.
Groundbreaking.
Did I say ribbon cutting?
You got to break ground before you can cut a ribbon, Matthew.
Yes.
I'm just jumping to the end.
It's been going that fast. It's just like that. It's continuing.
So we're hoping to have that done by the end of this year or early next year, so that we can do some events in the spring and then have our summer music and Summer's End next year. As you know, our Summer's End concert will be held downtown, and we're doing some collaboration with the Shakespeare folks who will not be able to use it this year as well. But what an exciting project that is. There will be some fundraising opportunities for a few components of the park, as well as naming rights. And we're working with Paulette on that. And we do need to gather. I met with the Friends last night, and they're all in to support that. So we'll be gathering a team of community individuals to help us get that fundraising off the ground for those specific components, which are the playground and all the AV equipment associated with the theater use.
Matthew, I just want to jump in for a second on that. If you are able to set a date that is in May for the groundbreaking, I talked to Walter Anderson, who is head of the music at the high school, because the jazz, I didn't even know they had a jazz band, but they have a wonderful jazz band that they had playing at the Wildflower event. And I talked to him about, because that would be wonderful to have the band come out and to make it into, a big deal. But he said that they would love that. They'd love to do it. So, but it would need to be, school ends June 2nd this year. So if we can get it before that date, then we would be able to get them, I think, to come and play, which I think would be wonderful.
We are definitely looking at a May, because we're going to be in heavy construction And we're certainly happy to talk to them. I will say we have to be cognizant of the limited area that we may have to work with for a safe event and also access and everything. So we're going to have to work with logistics there, given we will be looking at a construction site, likely construction fencing, all of those things and dealing with it, and probably, hopefully, in perhaps the parking lot there near Jersey Joe's. So we're open to it. Certainly, I think we can look at all options, but I must be, a little realistic about the limitations and logistics that we have to work with there. So we'll work on it. Happy to talk to it, but we are looking at May.
Yeah, great.
Right. And we'll reach out to the high school. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, that is my updates on the city council. You'll notice that Eddie is absent tonight. He is on a well-deserved vacation / honeymoon because he's getting married or got married at the end of last week.
Oh my goodness. Well, we knew nothing about this.
He was pretty quiet about it. We did a little surprise for him that threw him off a little bit. But yeah, he's enjoying some time away with his bride and their families, and he'll be back at the end of next week, and we're really happy for him.
Yeah.
And so I will provide the recreation updates. I have 4 items I wanted to share with you. The first is we have hired Colleen Granahan as our new part-time building attendant. Some of you may know Colleen. She's a longtime co-sider. She's actually very involved in the organization of the farmers markets and is part of the team that worked with the city to get Make It Main Street off the ground. And we've actually hired her as a building attendant to run the day of activities at Make It Main Street. So it's not me, because I'm not good at that stuff. She is. She'll also be covering different events. She's really, really skilled at event coordination and execution, and lives downtown. So she's going to be a real asset to the team, and again, a longtime co-sider. So we're really taking advantage of some relationships there and her knowledge. So excited to have her. If you run into her, say hi and welcome her to the city family. On the beach volleyball front, we are working with our community development department to get a permit in place to allow for the reinstallation of the beach courts at Poplar Beach. We had hoped to do that earlier this year, but we've been delayed because of some staffing issues there, but it's under review by our community development director. We are treating this year again as a pilot because our pilot only lasted about a month and a half last year. But our hope is to get the courts up within the next month and have them there through mid-November. So we have a good 6 months or so of court access. And once we get the confirmation of when we can put them up, we'll obviously push out marketing really hard, and our communications team will get the word out. And we're coordinating with our clubs in high school to make sure the kids get their access to do practices. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have 3 courts up shortly at Poplar Beach near the Kelly Beach border. You should have seen in your mailboxes recently the rec guide. It landed in mailboxes about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. We've kept the format that we've done since COVID, which is not the big catalog. We're kind of finding that maybe a dated approach to providing the information about our rec classes. We've gone with a more eco-friendly single page folded pamphlet that is really nice and kind of highlights some great programs and then connects people to the internet or to our rec center to sign up and get registered for classes. So hopefully you've gotten that. You've been checking out the different options available this year. One of the great options is we've organized a kickball tournament. There's 3 weeks in May that are set aside for this, and those are already fully booked. And so we've expanded it now. We're going to do several weeks in June and several weeks in July. And as long as there's demand, we'll keep doing it. We think it's a fun thing for adults to get some recreational activities here on the coast. And the reception so far has been great. We can't wait to see folks out there at Smithfield kicking the ball around. So that is it for our recreation updates, unless any of you have any questions about any of our programs.
Yeah, I want to make a comment because I was sitting with Bob at the wildflower event at the booth. Mm-hmm. And while we were there, a number of women came up seniors who mentioned that in the guide, they just did not see, they didn't feel represented. They did not see anything for them. And I know in the past, we used to at least put some of the activities over at the senior center so that at least our recreation guide looked like it was addressing all ages, you know, for the city's recreation. So I think they made an important point, and I think we need to pay attention to that because there were a number of people who made comments.
Okay, that's good feedback. You know, you're right. We used to have a two-page section where we listed some of our programs that were senior focused, and then a lot of the senior co-siders programs, and that still exists on the website. But I get the point that in the printed guide they may not have seen classes that were relevant to them. So that is good feedback, and we can easily change that in our next guide. So appreciate that.
About the volleyball, that's awesome that you guys are getting closer to getting those courts up. I think that the beaches will be ready for them pretty soon. So that is better than this. Okay.
There you go.
The only other thing I wanted to mention is we do need to move forward with the, like, anything we're doing with the high school. I was gonna send out an email, and I'm the worst, apparently, creator of doodle polls. So it took me longer than I wanted, but we're so sad that John Nazar is retiring, and it really, we should try to get this locked in while he is still there. And funding to maybe have the courts be honoring him. So some kind of John Nazar beach volleyball court type situation.
Hey, Hillary, we've got 3 other folks on camera, so we have a quorum. Why don't you try turning your camera off, and let's see if that improves, because it's really hard to hear you.
Okay, there, can you hear me better now?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so basically, John Nazar is retiring. Yeah. I think we should try, he's been so cooperative and enthusiastic, we should try to get this agreement in place, because it's really important for precedent setting with, I think, the high school to have this joint project where they own the land, and we build stuff. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we got the gist, but yeah, it's still really, really choppy, so it's hard to hear. The gist is for everybody that John Nazar, the principal at Half Bay High School, has been very supportive of a project to do some joint courts up there as well. And with him retiring in the next month or two, we want to make as much progress on it as we can, maybe even get an agreement with the school so that we don't lose that opportunity with whoever comes in to replace him. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, while we're opening up real quick, I just wanted to throw out there. So I was at the soccer fields, and I know this isn't a topic, but just want to give some feedback. The middle school team is now playing at the soccer fields. And so Monday was the first day of that practice. So going back to the project that we're talking about at Smith Field, all the field space is taken with the practice as is. And then when there's a game, I mean, there was 5 or 6 teams that couldn't practice on Monday, and it's going to happen again on Thursday. So just kind of throwing that out there. If you guys ever want me to provide more information on how the lack of field space exists for the soccer up at the middle school once that season starts, it's only for 2 months out of the year, but still. Going back to that Smith Field project, that'd be a nice way to tie that in. Just throwing that out.
And I believe we'll have a follow-up presentation on Smith Field at our next meeting in May. So that's that'll be perfect. Thank you. Okay. So it looks like we may have lost our chair temporarily.
She is trying to get on right now. She's going to try to call in, and I'll move her over if she's successful.
Great. So I think we'll just move to our regular agenda. In the meantime, we still have a quorum. So our next item is 6A. Oh, there she is. Update from the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec. And I see Maria is here.
Maria.
Hi, I'm here. Sorry. Hi, everybody. Great to see all your fun faces. And great to be here. I'm glad I was able to join in. So thank you. As Matthew mentioned, we met last night. We had a great development committee meeting. We have this great group. We meet once a month and talk about how we're going to fundraise and what we're going to do and outreach. And it's really great. That's in addition to our board meetings. And so we had a great meeting last night and caught up on a bunch of things and talked about a bunch of different ideas. That's where we would brainstorm ideas and then we bring them to the board for the board meeting, which our next meeting is next week. We are counting down the days to Coastside Gives, as are many of the nonprofits on the coast, but we will be pushing next week and fundraising next week like everybody. So feel free to make or join as a member if you have not yet and you would like to. We would love to have you. That will be next Thursday, all day long. And then, that's really a big focus for us right now. We're really talking about how we're going to do some different things with that, how we're going to raise money. I'm working on some matching gift challenges, trying to get those secured. So we're doing a couple of different things and it's good. We're excited. Last night, the team was trying to figure out how we could divide up all the social media so we could get the social media grant for our friends, which is $500, which is a big gift for us. So anyway, that was exciting, the meeting. And then we are working on, I presented to the development committee last night, a draft for the donor wall for Ted Adcock, which we've been talking about. And so we were excited about that. And so we'll be talking about it more on the board meeting next week. If anyone wants to join, again, you're welcome. You're all welcome to the board, come to the board meeting. And hopefully our scout is coming to present our donor wall plan, proposed plan for Frenchman's Creek Playground as well. So I'm excited for that to be happening. We are working on recruiting. I think we have 4 or 5 potential new board members now. And we really need some new board members. So that's something we're also as a board very excited about. And our pool discussions continue, with lots of different people in the community and planning for the rest of the year, how we're going to fundraise, what we're going to be fundraising for. We're trying to plan it all out so it's nice and easy to keep things moving along. So that's my quick update from Friends. Happy to take any questions.
Maria, can you tell us all what the donor wall at Ted Adcock is supposed to be actually about?
It's really a chance for us to have a place we don't have, a physical space. And so it's a place for us to acknowledge anyone that's giving $1,000 or more to our organization each year. We are designing it in a way that we can make changes to it very easily. It's very cost effective. We talked about this a lot last night at the development committee meeting, because, a true donor wall, like, if you think about the Boys and Girls Club donor wall or whatever that might be, all these people gave it's a fancy donor wall. The library donor wall is a big fancy donor wall. We don't have the facility we're fundraising for right now. We're raising money towards a pool endowment. We're raising money towards general operations. We're raising money to Frenchman's Creek, all these different things. But we are going to be focusing on general operations donations at Ted Adcock and the pool until we have somewhere that could, it could actually be like a pool facility, which when that could be, we're not sure. But it's a chance to say thank you and to get people more excited and to give more exposure, to people about Friends. So they're thinking about how they can support our different projects. And there'll be ways to link to our website from it. There's a QR code on the page, so that people can click on it and get more information.
Let me understand. For instance, let's say somebody gives $1,000 or $2,000 and is for a bench or a plaque or something at Carter Park or at the playground. Something is on there, a wall with a plaque, little tiles. I mean, whatever we come up with. Mm-hmm. How does that end up, you know, so is that going to be like completely separate from the donor wall at Ted Adcock? I mean, how is that all going to work together?
That is the plan right now, but we are still discussing it because last night we were talking about corporations as well. Like we want to maybe have a separate section for corporations to be able to give to Friends of Half Moon Bay to different projects and things. But the idea is that if someone's giving, because Matthew and I and staff and board members, we've all debated about this, I think. And if someone gives to the French Creek Playground, we want their name to be on that donor wall right there so people see it.
Right.
It won't be in both places necessarily right now, but again, we keep discussing this as a board.
Okay.
You know, Carter Park, we'll do a Carter Park donor wall at Carter Park. You know, I know we have debated about it because, you know, I've done a lot of fundraising and I've actually done it where you've done it, you list it in one location for everything and then still do it as well. But I think that confuses people. You know, I think because it's not like we're doing $1 million campaigns. We're doing smaller campaigns in places and smaller projects. So I think it makes sense and the board felt pretty strongly we should have it in the locations. And the last time we discussed it. Again, it's an ongoing discussion.
Yeah, okay, but, got it.
Yeah, and we are actually designing it so that we could make, you know, the way I'm doing it is that we could make changes to it throughout the year. So say we do have a small campaign and it comes up and there's nowhere else to put it and it doesn't make sense to put it somewhere else. We could find a way to add it in to this wall. The design will give it flexibility.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, good.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you everybody. COSUD Gives again, don't forget. And you're all welcome next Wednesday. If anyone wants to come to our board meeting, you're welcome as well.
For COSUD Gives, can you remind me, is the way that you get the $500 any person who goes to all the different stations raises $500, or does just one $500 is possible?
So it's per nonprofit. So every nonprofit does, there's 22 locations. We're doing pictures. So the development committee last night was all trying to help out with taking pictures with me this year. So it's not all Maria Burns kids all over the Friends of Half Moon Bay feed. So anyway, you just go to different locations that are sponsors and use a COSUD Give sign. It's really fun. And so we're trying to get our board and the development committee involved with that. But yes, so everybody that does that gets a $500 grant from Mavericks Community Foundation.
Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you, everybody.
Okay, Matthew, can you take us through the agenda? Because I switched to my phone in order to be on my phone, but now I can't see the agenda.
Absolutely, and we can hear you loud and clear. That's the most important.
Okay, good.
So the next item is 6B, the Carter Park statue deaccessioning request. And as always, all things art related, Victor Gaitan.
Thanks, Matthew. Everyone, I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, everyone can see that? Great. All right, good evening, Chair Stamper and members of the Parks and Recreation Commission. My name is Victor Gaitan, and I'm happy to be here tonight to present a formal deaccessioning request regarding the Carter Park statue of the man holding the pumpkin. That's what I've heard, it's been referred to. So most of you are probably well acquainted with deaccessioning, but I'll just go through a quick recap of what is art deaccessioning. And in its simplest terms, it is a removal of a piece of artwork from city or public property. And as many of you know, over the years, the city has accepted and permitted the placement of art, primarily sculptures in the city and public places, and there's typically been no formal agreement as to the terms or the placement or the removal of such art. And the condition of several of the sculptures, along with the lack of formal agreements, led to the drafting of the public art policy, which the Parks and Recreation Commission reviewed and commented on prior to council adoption on April 20th of 2021, about a year ago. So here we have the piece of art that we'll be discussing tonight. This is the statue in Carter Park. Most of you are probably well aware of where it is. And contrary to popular belief, it is not actually a statue of John L. Carter. It is an unnamed, unknown individual. In my research, the statue was sculpted by the artist Arabella Decker and donated to the city of Half Moon Bay in 1998. At the same time, actually, as the two sculptures in Katie Fernandez Park, one of them that was removed last year by emergency deaccessioning action due to its poor structural integrity, and the other one, which is a statue of the man sitting on the bench, that is still there. And here's the other one, and the plaque that goes along with it. It's called Days Done.
Yeah.
So that one is still in pretty good shape, luckily, maybe because it's not holding its own weight.
Huh.
So following the deaccessioning policy, we follow and rely upon the deaccessioning criteria. And artwork may be considered to review towards deaccessioning if one or more of these conditions apply. And in this case, I've highlighted a condition that applies. For this statue, as Matthew mentioned earlier, we hope to move forward with the Carter Park redevelopment very soon. So because this site is undergoing redevelopment, that is the criteria that we're using for this deaccession request. Following the procedures outlined in the deaccessioning policy, this deaccessioning request was initiated and reviewed by the city. Although the artist Arabella Decker has since passed away, we were able to make contact with the artist's son, Paul Schomber. I believe it's pronounced Schomber. I had a very good conversation with Paul. He was very supportive of the city's proposed approach regarding the deaccessioning and fully understands that the artwork isn't in the best shape and really wouldn't hold its structural integrity if it was removed. So he understands that it needs to be removed and most likely will fall apart upon removal. Paul did provide some background information, including some information I uncovered myself, which is that it was commissioned 25 to 30 years ago in 1998 and was one of several sculptures. What he did mention is that he would like to see at least one of his mother's artworks remain in the city. As I mentioned, the statue called Days Done is still in pretty good shape. So I think we can accommodate that. As part of the procedures, I also reached out to the Coastal Arts League, which actually were the ones that connected me to Paul. So thank you to Coastal Arts League. And I also reached out and connected with the Half Moon Bay History Association, which was generally supportive of this deaccession request as well. Now, there are several actions outlined in the policy the city can take for deaccessioning. And in this case, due to the poor structural condition of the statue, the materials it's made out of, which are mainly concrete and iron, there really is no way to salvage the artwork. And so the recommendation is that the sculpture be destroyed and disposed of once it's removed. And in speaking with our Public Works Department, the cost of the destruction disposal will just be wrapped into the demolition of the Carter Park project. And so with that, the recommendation from city staff is that the Carter Park statue be removed and destroyed to make room for the Carter Park Improvements Project. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Victor, where's that other piece of artwork?
The statue of the man sitting down Days Done is in it's in Kitty Fernandez Park. It's on the northern tip of Kitty Fernandez Park.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Are we going to be voting on this item tonight too? Yeah, okay, good.
So what will happen is we're looking for your recommendation, and then it does have to go to the council for approval.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, I've been all about getting this gone for quite a while. I think you've done great work on this, Victor. glad to see it, and glad to see we're finally at the stage to move forward with this. And it sounds like you've checked all the boxes, which is great, because there's always the politics of all the different entities involved. So it's great that you've done that, and that we're ready now to move forward. So
I agree.
Well done.
Do we just want to make a vote?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So anyone make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to move forward with commissioning the statue at Carter Park.
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Commissioner Black?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Eisen?
Yes.
Chair Stamper?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Victor, and thanks everybody. And the good news also
good
is
work, Victor.
Victor will be coming back in the coming months with some art accessioning projects as well. There's some things in the hopper, and we're excited to bring those with our new art policy to you as the body that's going to start that process. So very excited about that. And
we're not just removing artwork, we're installing artwork as well.
Yeah.
So thank you all. That will be helpful to us. Thank you, Victor, for running with that.
Yeah, John didn't want to have them design Carter Park around the statue.
No.
All right.
I'd like to make a comment regarding that. I knew Annabelle Decker as part of an art committee. And I'll tell you, I think she's very happy that statue is gone. It was wonderful, but it was definitely needs to be replaced. So, and I'm glad that there are other areas within the city that have her work, because she was quite the woman and needs to be remembered. So thank you, Victor.
Yeah, I think we do want to prioritize making sure we maintain the remaining statue at Kitty Fernandez Park so that it does last. I think that'll be important.
Good.
And Victor's developed a relationship with her heirs that can help with some of that.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, she was a heck of a woman.
That's great. Okay, the next item is 6C. This is a Johnston House Park discussion. As you recall, at our last meeting, we had John Ryan, who's the president of the Johnston House Foundation, come and do a little presentation on the history and the background of the Johnston House facility and all the work that foundation has done to create the beautiful building that we have, that iconic building that we have as you come into town from the south. And I think most everybody knows that this is a city-owned property, and the work with the Johnston House Foundation has been unofficial for a very long time. And we've been working with them. We started working with them pre-pandemic on an agreement to just really solidify the long-term status of the property and roles and responsibilities. That got put on hold during the pandemic, and we picked it up recently. And so we wanted to get you all some context as we move into that process. So we started with that presentation from the Johnston House folks. Several of you were able to attend a tour of the Johnston House with some of our staff last month. Those that didn't get to make it, I believe, was the tour this past Saturday, the regular opening. I don't know if anybody was able to make it to their regular hours, which I think was this past Saturday. It's the third Saturday of every month. So if you haven't been there and haven't had a chance to make it, we encourage you to go to a public tour. It is a beautiful building, and it's full of really great artifacts and some great history. And we want your feedback as we look at the future of this site. So tonight is a little bit more context and then some discussion about the future of the site. And we're going to start with Bob, our city manager, who's been working, as I think most of you know, his background is mixed, but before he came to the city, he spent several years with the East Bay Regional Parks District, which I believe is the largest parks district in the country. Bob operates the most acreage. Yeah. And so he brings some really great expertise to our city and also a passion for this work, and identified the Johnston House probably the day he walked in the door as something he wants to improve upon and see grow. And he's been working with Post and Mid-Penn Regional Open Space District on some projects there. So he's going to give us an update on that. Then I will talk about master planning efforts with some feedback from John Dowdy. And then we'll turn the time over and welcome Karen Decker from the City Manager's Office and Corey Stalker, also from the City Manager's Office, who are working with the Johnston Foundation on the agreement and the future status of the property. So with that, we'll turn the time over to Bob.
Thanks, Matthew. And Karen, if you're sharing slides, if you can put up the right map, that would be great. So here's the Johnston House, beautiful photo. Do you have the other one? Well, hopefully it's okay. And I also just want to remark that I saw Aaron Peth in the audience. He is with Mid-Penn Open Space. And so he is attending tonight and watching, and he is one of the staff people we've been working with for quite a while. So as Matthew said, yeah, this goes on to back to right shortly after I got here, and actually, yeah, I did do what Matthew said. I went, as I was getting to know the city, I certainly took some time out of the Johnston House, and I did immediately see a vision out there that it just had so much potential. Thank you, Karen. Aaron will appreciate that. But it wasn't long after that I got here that Mid-Penn actually, and they probably already were in conversations with city staff before I got here, but they contacted me directly. And by the way, they're probably the second biggest park district in the nation by acreage. They're very large as well, and run a lot of really awesome parks and open space that some of you are probably familiar with in the hills behind Half Moon Bay. But they approached us, and with what really is a big acquisition for them, and they've been working on it for quite some time. So again, my involvement started 3 years ago, but I assume they've been working on it much longer than that. But I'll use this map to describe kind of what's been going on in terms of us working with Mid-Penn and solidifying the partnership with them, and really together creating, I think, a vision between all three agencies, including Post, for what this could be in the future. So everyone's familiar, Highway 1, north-south. You see Higgins Canyon Road with the purple dots going alongside it. And the yellow-orange parcel together with the magenta or purple parcel is all owned by Post. And I believe it's over 600 acres, 650 acres. So quite a big parcel of land. And Post acquired that land some time ago. And the part that they've been working on more recently is to transfer what they call the uplands from Post to Mid-Penn Open Space. So the reason for the two colors, Post is going to retain what is called the flatlands in orange or yellow. And they're in the process, they're in escrow right now to transfer all the purple area to Mid-Penn Open Space. And there's been a lot of due diligence that Mid-Penn and Post have had to do along the way, a lot of bureaucratic steps. And I believe one of the last steps they need to do is they do have to have the county planning commission approve, I guess, what is going to be a lot line adjustment to kind of solidify this transfer, and then they'll be able to close escrow and officially own the property. So in the middle of all that, you can see the other color, which is essentially what the city owns, and it's pretty big too for us. I think I want to say it's almost 20 acres. I don't know if I have that right, but of course the Johnston House is on the property, the old rail depot. We have a very informal parking lot, a restroom, and all the land between the agricultural area and the Johnston House. It's relatively flat before you start up the hill towards the Johnston House. That's a very large area that is also owned by the city. And part of the deals that needed to be done before Mid-Penn could take over this property was we had to exchange some easements with them. And so that's all been done. We worked on this for probably a year and a half. The pandemic might have slowed us down a little bit. But they needed some access easements from the city so that they could access their property for maintenance purposes, for security purposes. Some utility easements needed to be exchanged. And I think the most important easement for us anyway, if you look at where the P is, the parking of the Johnston House, and head westerly along Higgins, they did grant us an easement along Higgins Road so we could put in a separate trail that would connect essentially where the completion of the Highway 1 South project is. There's a sidewalk that was put in right on that corner with a ramp. And from that point, we now have the ability to build a separate either decomposed granite or dirt or pavement, whatever we choose, trail that would then connect up to the Johnston House. And so that came out of our dealings with them. But now looking ahead, and in a second, I'll turn it back over to Matthew to talk about kind of the bigger vision and master planning this. They want to, they're anticipating closing escrow, and their plan is to pursue some trails on the property. And what you're seeing here, the darker squiggly lines in purple are just very conceptual trails, and there's two of them. And one would be just a short loop that would start and end at the Johnston House parking lot. It would be a nature trail that would go up into the uplands and probably have outstanding views of the ocean and just be a really beautiful trail for people to use. And then the second one is northerly on the other parcel that would actually connect to other trail systems like Burley Murray State Park, and eventually onto other trails on lands that Mid-Penn open space owns. So this is very long-term planning, but that's what they do, and that's their intention. And so in all of this, the next step for partnership for the city, Post, and primarily Mid-Penn is we don't want to slow them down in building that nature trail. The city is 100% supportive of it. And what a nice amenity for our city, and what will be really a part of the city portion of the park. The two are going to work in tandem. And so the next step of our partnership is to kind of start to work out that next phase of how we would work together to manage the properties. And what's most important, what it comes down to typically, is parking. So once they put that nature trail in, they want the ability for people who are using the trail to be able to park in our parking lot. So we're talking about, sharing of parking and managing that parking collectively. And of course, their constituents are our constituents. So the same people that might be using their trail are also city residents. And so we're fully supportive of, again, that addition to what will be the future vision for this park. And so as they start to kind of plan the schedule for how fast they can put that nature trail in, we're talking about drafting up an agreement between the two agencies whereby we would decide, how to manage the parking lot and how to essentially rebuild the parking lot. I think we agree that it could be bigger. It could be better configured. It could be more formalized. It could have additional amenities associated with it. It could be paved, maybe not. That choice needs to be made. But there's the ability now to formalize that parking and set it up so that it can be shared use for both trail users, Johnston House users, and other users of whatever else we do out there. And then we can decide collectively how to build it together and how to manage it together. So that's where we are with open space, with Mid-Penn Open Space. It's just been a great partnership. We actually have a meeting with them tomorrow. We've been meeting with them periodically. And like I said, the next step is to form this agreement that would kind of outline the terms on which we would build that parking lot. And that leads to the next part, and that is, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Although the nature trail is exciting, we don't think Mid-Penn, they want to move fast, but it's going to take them a while, a year or two, maybe a little longer. And so we recognize that it starts with the parking, but we also really need to vision what we want to do what the Johnston House can be and what the rest of the park can be, because we don't want to start making upgrades to the parking lot and get ahead of ourselves in terms of what we're even planning for. So I'm going to now turn it over to, I think, Matthew, and to talk a little bit more about master planning. And then the real focus of this discussion, we'll get there. We're coming from the 30,000 foot level down to the 20,000 foot level. The real focus then will be today's item, which is the Johnston House Park and how we effectively get into a better lease for operation of that facility. Go ahead, Matthew.
Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate that. And I think before I start, I know Aaron's in the audience. I just wonder if there's anything else he'd like to share. Give him the opportunity to speak. If you'd like, raise your hand and we can bring you over as a speaker. If not, we can continue and you can continue to enjoy our meeting. There it is. Okay, let's, okay, you're able to talk now. There you go.
Great. Yeah, I'll keep this very, very brief. Just want to say thank you, for hearing this item and bringing it forward. And we really appreciate the City of Half Moon Bay partnership on this and working forward. As Bob mentioned, we've been meeting a lot on this and see it as a great opportunity for this great local amenity of a future trail, coinciding with any improvements to the Johnston House property as well for any parkland. And, this being so close to Half Moon Bay, the City of Half Moon Bay, is a really exciting opportunity for us. So many of our preserves are located far out in farther out locations. And this is really going to be a preserve that people, using the future trail on Higgins Canyon Road can access some of the loop trail that was shown on the map. And so this is just a really exciting opportunity for us as well. And so we're really excited to keep working with the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. Great. Well, that's a good lead into my short portion of this presentation, but I think it's important to set the stage for the next part of the discussion. And as Bob mentioned, there's a lot happening both at the Johnston House property and around it. And it's really important that we follow a good public process and do this the right way so that we don't create improvements that don't meet our future needs, and we don't create improvements that prohibit us from doing other things that we'd like to do out there. And, we've got a good track record, I think, of this work. And I think we'll follow that track record as we go forward. And that's to start with a master plan of this property. And as you've seen with the Smithfield property and as we did at Carter Park, when we do it methodically, it puts us in a good position to make good decisions, to come up with a design that really meets the needs of the community, and then put ourselves in a position to get some funding support, because that's always a challenge for us here. We don't generate enough money in taxes to do big projects. We have to use other people's money. And so what we're proposing is not this fiscal year, but in the next fiscal year, 23, 24, hopefully, that we kick off this master planning process for this property. We always start with feasibility constraints and studies. We bring out environmental experts who look at the property, especially in the context of it being in the coastal zone, and make sure that we're not dealing with wetlands and other species and both animals and plants, and identify any other constraints that exist on the property. We have a topographical survey done to better understand the soils we're dealing with and the topography of the site. And that sets the stage for then the dreaming, what do we want to see out here? And that, of course, involves community and stakeholder input. The Johnston House Foundation, of course, would be a major stakeholder in this process, as would this commission. And we would also identify other stakeholder groups and find ways to engage the community towards the future of this property. And then you do the architectural design, and there's that feedback loop with the community. And then as that gets finalized and we go through the permitting process, we start looking at funding opportunities and how we phase out some of these projects. And to Bob's point, A big one here, of course, is the parking, because we want to make sure whatever we build out there is going to meet the needs of this property and these other amenities for the long term. And so this is stuff we'll be working on in the next year. In 23, 24, we're very loaded up. You'll see in our next item with capital projects this year. And we need to make some good movement with some of these other projects before we take this on. But we think that will phase in well with our work with the Johnston House Foundation and with Mid-Penn. And I say all of that because as we get into the next part of this item, we will talk about the future of this property. And we want you right now to be thinking keep it at the 20,000 foot level. We're not ready to master plan this site yet. We want to make sure we have all the right information before we do that. But we are going to ask for some feedback. And so let's keep it at a high level and know that next year we're going to have a chance to really dig in and get to the ground level on this. And with that, I'll turn it over to Corey and Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So good evening, Chair Stamper and Parks and Recreation Commission. My name is Corey Stalker, and I'm working on the Johnston House Agreement with Karen Decker. And there are just a few items we wanted to talk about in relation to the current or the pending agreement. Currently, there is no formal agreement with the Johnston House Foundation. There are some technical terms that we feel would be beneficial to have clarified and considered prior to creation of a formal agreement. One of the items is community access and frequency of use. Currently, according to the Johnston House Foundation website, the house is open for free tours led by costume docents the third Saturday of each month, as Matthew mentioned earlier, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., while it is closed October, November, and December, so at the end of the year. Given that it is a public facility on public land, the agreement would be a great opportunity for us to set expectations for the best usage of the house and the surrounding property to allow for the greatest amount of public access. Thinking in technical terms, how to best make this wonderful property most accessible to our community and how we see to make that happen. Another technical term would be maintenance and utilities. In the agreement, we'd like to be able to flesh out the official maintenance and utility responsibilities for the house and the surrounding grounds. So for example, electricity, gas, maintenance of the grounds, and items related in that nature. And one of the others would be term length. Currently, the thought is to potentially do a shorter term agreement, roughly 3 years, which would hopefully lead to a longer term agreement similar to the trajectory of another agreement the city currently has. Having a short-term agreement gives us the chance to solidify roles, responsibilities, and expectations with the Johnston House Foundation. That time gets us through all of the master planning, as well as gives the foundation time to identify the best functioning model for their organization. It gives them time for succession planning and to best utilize the Johnston House and the allotted grounds. And it gives the commission an opportunity in the city to ensure the deliverables of the agreement are being met, or if there's additional support that needs to be given. It gives us time to plan and work together. The term length is going to give precedent due to the term length suggested is giving precedent because of the Half Moon Bay Historical Association agreement. There was a shorter term agreement that they had prior to their current longer 25-year agreement. It allows there to be time to find their best functioning model. After their shorter term agreement was fulfilled, they were able to and are currently very successful, which led them to their longer term agreement. So with all of these items in mind and the precedent from the Half Moon Bay History Association, it gives us an opportunity to think about aspirational terms within our agreement and an idea of what we can be working on. And now I'd like to pass it over to Karen so we can talk about our aspirational terms.
Great, thank you, Corey. My name is Karen Decker. I'm a senior analyst with the City Manager's Office, and it's so nice to be with you, Commission and community. As Corey said, what we're proposing to do with a short-term agreement with the Johnston House Foundation is not unlike what was done with the Half Moon Bay History Association back in 2018. I was fortunate enough to join the City Manager's Office around that time and benefit from the groundwork that Matthew and my predecessor had laid down with the History Association and the operation of the historic jail as a micro museum. And the city gleaned a lot of valuable lessons during those 2 years that agreement was in place. And it has informed some of the elements that we would be looking for when gauging the feasibility of potentially a longer term agreement. So many of these are examples that we learned from that other city-owned property. And I'll just go through a few of them here. So strong partnerships would be essential in moving forward. Some of you heard Matthew mention some of them during the master planning process. So, partnerships with the existing stakeholders in the surrounding property. So Mid-Penn and Post and the city. Also, partnerships moving forward in terms of the potential that the site offers and what the Johnston House could bring to the community, say, by strengthening or expanding capacity with Cabrillo Unified School District, for example, or the Boys and Girls Club. Or how amazing would it be to partner on particular projects or installments with the Half Moon Bay History Association? We would love to see a leveraging of resources and kind of cracking open of ideas. Local relevance would be, of course, historically appropriate. So the Johnston family coming from the East Coast and their salt box style house is so iconic on the coast. And when the family made their start here, this was in the context of a larger coastside and California history, right? So, the local relevance to the Portuguese community and what might that look like, say, in involving the Portuguese Cultural Center, for example, or bringing an Ohlone Costanoan perspective, both historic and contemporary, just those kind of examples. And then when we say continued public engagement and learning opportunities, again, increasing access and community engagement and learning opportunities that are not fixed in time. So it's not as though you've been to the house once, you took advantage of a tour and you've seen all there is to see. It would be nice to have, a rotating installment or to be adaptable and to keep drawing people to the site, even if they had toured the house previously. I have no doubt that there would be new things to learn, new perspectives to consider. And the last few, the robust docent program and the fundraising and even the succession planning, I kind of think of those grouped together in the sense that those are all examples of a healthy organization, right? An organization that is engaged, that is adaptable, and that is just a great partner in helping to activate that space for the greater community to enjoy now, but hopefully, for generations to come. So this is our last slide, and I'd like to pause and ask the Commission just for general feedback as to whether you think we're on the right track. I understand a couple commissioners were able to tour the house on April 11th, and big thanks to the foundation for making that happen. Given what you may have learned on that tour and some things that you've heard this evening, did certain things resonate? Are there things that we should be considering that you'd like to draw to our attention? And Corey and I are going to be the central points of contact working with the Johnston House Foundation. So our next step will be to meet with their leadership and propose this notion of what a short-term agreement might mean and the potential benefits to both parties, and kind of using that time again to look at the feasibility of potentially a longer-term agreement. So I'll turn it over back to Chair Stamper. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Would anyone who attended the tour like to speak up first?
Okay, so I attended the tour. And Karen, I think you're absolutely on the right track. I love what you just presented here. I think you're really, you're really on the right track in terms of the all the stakeholders, all the potential ideas, some of the potential ideas, and that is some of the things that I saw in my mind when I was there. I saw some of that whole history potential to expand upon that. To be able maybe to have more of a interactive experience, let's say for kids coming in there, whether it's some of the those kitchen items, that, you know, take just to lift that iron, you know, the iron that they used. So, I mean, just to have more of that interactive, not just to look, to be able to, you know, participate in some history kind of things. I like the Ohlone aspect. There's just, there's a lot of potential. I'm so glad also, Bob, that you mentioned that we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because with the parking, especially because of things that we might come up with that we want to have there, that if we then right away with the parking, suddenly we don't have that room or that space that would have been perfect for such and such. So it's really important to get kind of that master plan together before, you know, we look at, and I love the trail thing, I love. But yes, of course, parking is going to be an issue, and we'll have to figure that out, but not to get that as the first and foremost. Let's look at what the plan would be for that space. I'm wondering also about landscaping. I mean, one of the things about that, the house, it's not enhanced in any way by nice landscaping around it. And I think that would be something I would love to see. You know, to make it a little more park-like in that sense, you know, so that it's not just sort of bare land and the house on it, and which is pretty much what it is right now. So that's about it for the moment, in terms of my impressions when I was there.
Anyone else want to share thoughts?
I'm here. Pat's here. From the time 50 years ago when I came here to California, we came to the coast. We had to see the water. And I remember the Johnston House being such, you know, a surprise sitting up there. And very fortunate today that I live just south right off Highway 1. And I passed by the Johnston House, and I just get such a wonderful feeling about it. And it really has an awful lot to offer to the community, as well as to the history of Half Moon Bay and the coast. A lot of stuff happened there. The history of the house is absolutely fascinating. The docents do a fabulous job. And just, I think one of the things that was so outstanding for me this time, I've been there many, many times, was the fact that it's basically built of redwood. And even the floors are redwood. And when you look at those floors, I mean, it was just amazing to me. But it's really an incredible building. And to think about the whole story, which is just, to me, it's amazing. I mean, it makes today seem like we have nothing to complain about, you know, what people did to live here. And so I'm just really grateful for it. And I encourage people. And something that I have been thinking about, and I talked to my friends about it. And, you know, if we had a bus from downtown to hit the high spots, and the Johnston House would be someplace where, you know, you could hop on the bus, you go see the Johnston House, and you can come back, and it's no big deal, and you're not parking a car. That's the other thing. I think that's going to be an interesting arrangement. But I really look forward to it, and it really is. It's really a very special place. And also, too, the way it's landscaped was the way it was landscaped way back when. Tell you the truth. And it depends upon the season also. It's very seasonal up there, but there is an extensive rose garden. You have to kind of be up there because there's a fence around it and there's a hedge. And to see those roses is pretty something, because, you know, really you're in the middle of nowhere. And it has just a lovely a feeling to it as being a home. And so I encourage anybody who hasn't been there should just go up and check it out, because it really is pretty spectacular. So thank you.
I have some thoughts, but whenever everyone else has had a chance to share, I'll go.
No, go ahead, Hillary. I'm good.
Okay. I mean, I'll echo what everyone has said so far. I think it's absolutely in the right direction. And I only will add that like historical recreations are one of my favorite things to do as a family. So we spend a lot of time going places where they do this kind of thing. And I would just really encourage the staff to look at other historical recreations to get additional ideas for programming ideas that can continue over time, from things like Williamsburg to Hampton Court Palace in England near London to just Monticello. You know, there are a number of places where they do all kinds of interesting interactive historical event planning. And one of the things that I love in the Williamsburg community is they have a massive like colonial garden. And I don't know what types of gardens they kept here, but the connection to the Ohlone people very much interested me, just because I wondered about interactions between how you could represent some of the activities that Ohlone people would do on this type of land and compare with the then later settlers. So things like that can be built that, you know, people who are maintaining the gardens there, for example, could be community members. It's one way of having an ongoing interactive experience with the place that could be very interesting. But overall, again, we're trying to keep it high level. So I really love the idea of really bringing the history in and trying to make it as interactive as possible with different types of recreation events. So that is all.
Okay, I just want to add.
All right, I think you know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, Adam, go ahead.
I'll
if
go
you have something to say about the Johnston House.
Well, yeah, no, just going along with that, the San Mateo County History Museum, I think it's called.
Yes, yes, they do a great job.
They do a great job. They do a great job. And the kids go from the school each year and learn pretty much all about what you're talking about. That seems like a great starting point to just understand what they do and then see if we can incorporate some story and some history into that here. Because I agree. I think they do a great job.
Yes, and they actually have great, I actually thought of them and then forgot. They have wonderful activities that the kids do. Like they do acorn grinding and they do cording and other things like that. It is a really good resource.
Yeah, one of my thoughts is because of the, the big thing about the salt box and the architecture is to be able to, let's say, have kids, build model salt box houses, to learn to do that. There's a lot of potential, but of course, none of it can be done in the house. That's just, that house needs to be, you can't have a bunch of activities going on in the house. So that's where we're back to some other structure, whether it's a tent, whether it's a...
Well, we have that city structure right there.
Or the depot, the depot building, to incorporate that with activities that could be combined with a visit to the Johnston House. So there's a lot of ideas to that are possible, but yeah. If all you do is go there and look at the house, you're not really most people are not gonna go back again. And so the big thing is finding reasons why also to have people come back again, whether it's an event, a few different events a year, just there's a lot of possibilities so that we because that should be, to me, we're looking at, you know, from Carter Park to the Johnston House, like just that whole corridor to make that a whole happening scene in Half Moon Bay. The Main Street all the way ends, you know, at the Johnston property.
That's great. Thank you so much for all that feedback. So Karen and Corey, next steps are we're going to be working with the foundation on this shorter term agreement and incorporating this feedback into that approach. I think what we're looking at time, as far as timing goes, is a 2 to 3 year agreement with the foundation. Interim agreement would allow us to install some of these thoughts and these aspirations with them, give them some time to work on them. It also gives us the time to do the master planning, and hopefully we kind of converge at the same time. They've master planned their own future as we've master planned the physical property, and then we can work with them together on a longer term vision of the Johnston House itself. So definitely we will be back in the future with more requests for feedback and thoughts on the physical property as well as the Johnston House operation itself.
It's great.
Anything else we need to cover on this item, Corey and Karen?
No, just really grateful for the feedback and looking forward to bringing a draft agreement for your consideration, and hope that it meets your expectations. But my wheels are definitely turning, and thank you so much for your thoughtful feedback. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Great. So the one more thing is that I did mention to the folks from the foundation, the docents that were there, about the horseshoes, about the idea of having the horseshoe, because we still need to figure that out from Smith Field. So this is where so many things are potentially tied together, or if we're going to think about moving the horseshoes from Smith Field to the Johnston, in the Johnston House area. They thought it was an interesting idea. You know, I didn't get the immediate no, you know. So.
One of the things they have in Williamsburg too is they have lawn bowling, I think, and it's like it's the similar idea of horseshoes, where these are really old games that are played.
Right, perfect.
I think that it's one of the best parts of Williamsburg because it's very interactive and you feel like you're back in that time. So
yeah, perfect.
We want recreation and recreation.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I feel like those might be spelled the same way. I'm not going to spell.
Yay, English.
I know. So in any event, on to the next item, which now I think I can see you again, maybe, or maybe not. Tell me.
Yes, so thanks to Karen and Corey and to Bob for providing that presentation and all your feedback. The next item is public, and our final item of the night is Public Works is here to present the fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement plan. And I believe it's John Dowdy and Jonathan Wu.
See, every commission, Public Works always is the last item, and we love learning so much during the meetings. So thank you for the opportunity. Hey, nice to be here tonight. The primary presentation is going to be by Jonathan Wu, our assistant engineer. You've met him before. We have promised you and continue to commit to you to come forward and prior to submitting our best list of projects to the council to come and talk to you. We've also recently went to the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So we wanted to get the Bike Pedestrian Advisory Committee recommendations and positions before we came to you. So we're here. The plan moving forward is that the council is scheduled for May 3rd to have a study session on the capital program. And what we're doing tonight and focusing on tonight is primarily what we call the capital the capital budget, which is the 1-year capital program. It's what the city can put forward in at given year, although we'll talk a little bit about looking ahead, and we will ultimately be presenting a 5-year plan, and you'll see some of those items tonight, just so we want, so we're not leaving you out in the dark on everything that's going on. And certainly these will all be public documents. I also want to say that at this point, we don't know whether we can afford everything that you're going to see in the list. This is our recommendation moving forward, and the council ultimately will have to prioritize what that funding is. And so the city manager was very clear about making me make that announcement to any and all, including the council, on the 3rd, and it is only appropriate. So this is a list, and what we consider to be the list, sort of the expansive list with this, and we will see after all of the other budget requests and everything come along where we stand and what can we afford for particularly general fund allocations to the capital program. And I think Bob was going to stick around during this a little bit, and he can certainly talk more if there's a need or want about prioritizations and how that goes and kind of where he is. Obviously, the city council establishes strategic priorities, and that's something that we're also trying to keep in mind in terms of that kind of 2-year working strategic priorities and work program, and how these projects relate to that. And with that, I'll let Jonathan take over and run you through the presentation, and we'll try not to bore you too much, try to give a lot of pictures and explanations, and we can, probably the easiest thing is to allow Jonathan to go through the presentation and then ask questions after that. If I could ask that, I think it just is easier for the continuity of presentation and thought process. So thank you for allowing us to be here tonight and present this to you. Jonathan, take it away.
Thank you very much, John, for the introduction. And it's good to see everybody again, Parks and Rec, fellow city staff, as well as attending members of the public. As John said, I'm Jonathan Wu, the assistant engineer for the city of Half Moon Bay, and I'm very excited to present this item to you, the proposed fiscal year 22-23 capital improvement program. So as you probably already know, a CIP is basically identifying current and future efforts throughout city limits, just for the benefit of any visitors or any residents throughout the city of Half Moon Bay. So one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and kind of John touched on this a little bit, is the difference between a project versus a program. So a project is generally a one-time improvement, and a program is more ongoing efforts yearly over a course of X amount of years, so many years. Another thing I wanted to kind of touch on about, and again, John mentioned it earlier, with the difference between a capital budget versus a capital improvement program. So the capital budget is basically just a 1-year deal, and then a capital improvement program is basically set over a total of 5 years. So throughout this presentation, I'll be talking to you about specifically about parks and trails within our capital improvement project or capital improvement budget for the fiscal year 22-23. So I'm gonna kind of quickly go through little bits of these, but I'm not gonna go too much in depth. But if you wanna talk a little bit more about each, we can definitely come back to it after the fact. So the first project I wanted to talk to you about, and Matthew touched about this in the city council kind of notes earlier in the meeting, was the Carter Park Improvements Project. So this past City Council meeting on April 19th, we've awarded a bunch of contracts to our construction contractor, to a couple of other special services that we need for the project as well. And we're very hopeful, and we're very anticipating for this construction project to start soon. And definitely can't wait until that groundbreaking celebration that we're planning to have in May. And I wanted to, again, give a huge shout out to Assembly Member Mark Berman and his staff, again, for that $4.75 million grant that they really helped us out for, and it really pushed us to get along with this project, as well as other city staff that really took on this project and pushed it to where it is right now. Another project is Frenchman's Creek Park Improvements Phase 2. There's not a whole lot to this project that I can talk to you about for this moment, but we'll keep moving on, and we could always come back to it later on if need be. And the next project is Poplar Beach Gateways Plan. So at the moment, we're currently finishing up the environmental documents, and we'll be going back to City Council to ask them to adopt the master plan as well as any environmental documents later down the line. Next one is Smithfield Master Plan. And one thing I did want to note specifically with this master plan, or this project in general, is that work within fiscal year 22-23 is really dictated by the willingness of any potential donor to participate for this. But again, that's one thing I wanted to note specific to this. Oops, sorry. The next project is Train Depot and Johnston House for short-term improvements. And specifically for this project, it's just focusing solely on ADA improvements around this area. Next project is the Wavecrest Water Main Project. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a water main project along Wavecrest Road to the park, specifically for fire improvements, fire safety improvements, as well as irrigation for Smithfield. Next project is a coastal trail overlay between Poplar and Central. So you can kind of see on your screen there, it's about approximately 1,600 linear feet of the coastal trail that we're planning to overlay and maintain that, that pathway. So the next project is the East Side Parallel Trail North segment. This segment, and I'll touch on you know, the different segments along the East Side Parallel Trail a little bit later on. But specifically this segment 4, is just creating an east side path along Highway 1 between Roosevelt Boulevard all the way to Marauder Road, which is basically the County of San Mateo and City of Half Moon Bay limit boundary. And like I mentioned, here is kind of a map that shows the different segments, and I tried my best to color code it to make it a little bit easier. Apologize if it's hard to read, but we kind of split into 4 separate segments. So if we're starting on the bottom of your screen, we're talking about East Side Parallel Trail, the first segment. And this portion is within the Highway 1 North project. And if we're going a little bit more north, we'll go to segment 2, which is Spindrift to Russo Francais. Currently, this project is in the talks, and we're trying to look for funding for this. And segment 3 is an existing pathway along the east side between Russo Francais all the way to Roosevelt. And I just talked about segment 4. One thing to note too is that the county actually has a project north of Marauder Road in their jurisdiction for a trail that connects to our East Side Trail in Half Moon Bay, pretty much from Marauder Road all the way up to El Granada Elementary School. Kind of what I was talking about, segment 1, portion of the Highway 1 Safety North project. This project, like I said, consists of that pathway on the east side, as well as traffic signal improvements all along through Main Street North, all the way to Spindrift Way. The next project we'll be working on is the Poplar Street Traffic Calming and Safety Project. This project was brought to the Planning Commission back in February, and we're just currently working out through the design phases right now, and hopefully we could go ahead and start in spring or summer of 2023. So now that I kind of talked about all the projects, or most of the projects that I kind of put down earlier in the slides, now I kind of want to talk about some programs. And remember, I kind of differentiated between the projects versus the programs, how a program is just an ongoing maintenance and ongoing projects throughout the fiscal years. So one of the master plans that we'll be talking about is the Parks Master Plan implementation program. We'll also be working on the bicycle and pedestrian connectivity and safety program, as well as a trail maintenance program. And one thing to note that I want to express is that for all of these programs and all of these projects, we'll be really focusing on ADA accessibility. And that is something that was one of the programs that I kind of mentioned on that list. So with that, I know it was a lot of information, but we wanted to kind of show you kind of like a diagram of a trail summarization of pretty much the projects and the new trails and the trails that are existing that we will maintain throughout this fiscal year and future fiscal years as well. So over here, you kind of see a segment from the north end of town or of the city, from Murata Road all the way down to Highway 92. You see, we talked about the East Side Parallel Trail. The reason why I didn't put in the third segment, again, is because that one's existing. At the moment, there are no focuses onto maintaining it, but of course, future years down the line, we'll look into that. But for these in red, we're denoting it as a new trail to be installed as a CIP project. So now this portion right here, we're heading a little bit more down south between Highway 92 and Wavecrest Road. Again, the red denotes as a new pathway for a CIP project, but blue in this case represents an existing trail that will be maintained throughout a CIP project. And we kind of touched about the coastal trail overlay, but it didn't really touch about the Naomi Patridge Trail. And I think definitely we've looked into this, and we'll do our best to try to maintain that portion of the trail as well. And then heading a little bit more south from Wavecrest Road all the way to the south end of town, we have a few spots in Ocean Colony that need some look into, and we'll do our best also to maintain that portion of the coastal trail at these few locations over here. We kind of wanted to provide a kind of a summary or an overview of how much total fiscal year 22-23 general funds requested throughout all the projects, how much was proposed throughout fiscal year 22-23 for the capital budget, in addition to how much was allocated specifically for pedestrian, bicyclist, park, and trail projects. And these two numbers over here, about 2.5 million versus the 5.1 million over here. It's about 40% of pretty much this proposed capital budget that we're focusing for pedestrian, bicycle, park, and trail projects. But we wanted to provide also an entire overview of the five-year expenditures, which comes to be about $110 million, and 69 of that million is unfunded at the moment. But we'll keep looking into some grants and some ways to fund those projects.
Can we ask questions about what you just talked about, or do you want us to wait till the very end?
I think almost. I think I have 2 more slides left. If it's okay with you, I know it's sorry to extend the presentation a little bit, but yeah, just two more slides, and then we could touch base, move back to other projects or other questions that you may have. But this pretty much penultimate slide talked about major future projects down the line, not within the next fiscal year 22-23, but also within fiscal year 23-24, or even future years down the line. Some are unknown, and you can see that on your screen over there. But now that the presentation's over, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I do want to ask a clarifying question about you mentioned the Poplar Gateways project, and then also the maintenance of the trail between Kelly and Poplar. And I was under the impression that there potentially was going to be a new path because of the existing path getting so close to areas where the trail's eroding. How are these two things working together?
So let me run with that one. Obviously, we have talked about, and the Poplar Gateways plan envisions a realigned and series of trails, paths, and obviously moving easterly away from erosion. We've reached the conclusion that we cannot wait. We have significant safety issues and trip and fall concerns with the current trail and path, and we are nowhere near a point of identifying financing. We do not have the CEQA documentation to deal with it. So we are caught in a situation in which we would love to be able to defer the maintenance and resurfacing of the coastal trail, but we cannot. And so they're not, what we're going to buy ourselves is probably 7 to 10 years with this resurfacing. We're not going to do a complete reconstruction. So you're not going to see what we did with the Poplar parallel trail. So we're not going to rip it all out. So we're just going to be going in and putting an overlay over top of it. So we're buying ourselves time until we can get the Poplar Gateways plan adopted fully, to get the CEQA environmental document done, and we can start to then talk about funding those improvements and everything. So they're being done in coordination, and but we just can't wait any longer to deal with that. That help?
Yes, thank you. It definitely helps. I see, Paulette, you have questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually also going to follow. That was also something that I was, what do you mean 7, 8 years? I mean, the erosion aspect can screw that idea up for 7, 8, 9 years in terms of being able to have that trail there. So
Paulette, I think you have been the strongest advocate for maintaining and cleaning up this this trail and this path. So absolutely. I guess I'm gonna call you on that one a little bit.
No, no, absolutely.
But that being said, is I mean, we cannot wait. I've said it. We cannot wait. And I mean, we are talking about multi millions of dollars necessary to do the relocation of the path and trail. We recognize that there are going to be areas where we have the outfall points and we have erosion points, and we're going to have to look at those carefully and move those forward. I just can't, as they say, if everything's a priority, nothing becomes a priority.
Yeah,
so
I understand.
We're emphasizing this one for a safety issue at this point, again, and trying to balance out the needs for the immediate and look at the future. So
yeah. There's just obviously an enormous amount of work that needs to be done, let alone the money that needs to come in to be able to do all of this.
Yep.
But the question I have is two things I'm wondering about. That one is Magnolia. Where does Magnolia Park fit into this? And the other thing I'm wondering about is the Redondo Beach parking lot. I heard that was going to be redone. That is just a horrible place to try to park a car. So what's the story with those two things?
So we basically are struggling through one I'll take Magnolia first. And I think we had a great kickoff. We've had a great run. And we're on the right path and on the right trail. Reality is, and Matthew can jump in if he wishes to or when he wishes to. The bottom line is that we just don't have staff capacity to be able to take on another major project of that nature. The second piece of that is that there is no identified dedicated funding source for this project. And so it doesn't mean that we can't come back and perhaps look at mid-year and program in more of the planning. But right now, between Jill and community development, Matthew and myself, we just landed on, we've got to put a stop on this a little bit, a slowdown with it, and basically say, we just cannot take it on. And deal with it. I did want to note we are, and I am working on getting under contract. I have a proposal and getting under contract to do the Frenchman's phase 2, that phase 2 project at Frenchman's. So we're going to be operating. We allocated our Prop 68 funds, are basically guaranteed funds to that project. So we are moving that forward, and we'll be bringing back master plan to the commission. So I didn't want to short shrift that one. It was on the list, but I didn't want to short shrift it. But that's the challenge we have with Magnolia Park. Obviously, we have CFOG, and they have a great interest in the community garden. Hopefully, their fundraising will be successful, and we can then work through that. But that was the reality of where we were, of just saying, look, we just can't take on that project.
Okay, so yeah, Redondo Beach Park.
Redondo. So remember, Redondo, that is not a parking lot technically, and that is owned by a Coastside Land Trust.
Oh, okay.
And so it is. So that question really belongs being referred to Coastside Land Trust. We've had conversations with that. Obviously, I think everybody's aware. The Coastside Land Trust, and we've worked with them, has developed plans and is moving forward. And I think planning to come to the Planning Commission in the coming months for the CDP. And they have asked the county and looked at other funding sources to complete and connect the coastal trail. That project includes new parking lots along Redondo Beach Road, and would basically then allow for restoration of that area and moving it forward. We have, while I know there's challenges and issues with the Coastal Commission perhaps and coastal access, we as the city have suggested that we may wish to fence or do some kind of barricading off of that, in part because of the danger there and to just the condition that it's in, but primarily because the danger that it poses, I think, to users that attempt to shimmy down the cliffside there with their coolers and everything. We're always amazed. But that's where we are with that. And so that is not a city project and not a city parking lot.
All right. So I was looking at Magnolia Park or Smithfield something. Where is going to be the fastest place and the fastest timeline to get a bocce ball court established somewhere, because again, this was also came up at the Wildflower. People, talking about there's no place for, and especially seniors, to play bocce anywhere in Half Moon Bay. Oak Avenue Park certainly has locations that could accommodate that. We suggested long ago, although the 555 Kelly housing initiative might have some implications, that we had suggested a potential bocce ball location is behind the Ted Adcock Center. That would be nice. So those are quick. For me, those are quick, and those are quicker and easier answers, perhaps, to that point.
John, can I jump in on that though, really quick? Those may be quick locations, but I do have to be honest. The outreach we've done on the different parks, though bocce ball has come up, it doesn't come up as a top priority in any of the outreach we've done. And so I'm not sure that I foresee, just in all honesty, I don't foresee us putting a ton of energy into doing that outside of a larger project. Certainly we could consider that, but we rely on community feedback quite a bit in our decision making. And though it's come up, things like pickleball, volleyball, other things come up much stronger. And so I think for bocce ball to kind of move up the priority list, it probably is going to take some grassroots efforts from the community, including some fundraising, before that would be prioritized. It certainly could be programmed into one of these larger master plans and then built into a project. But as a standalone project, I have to be honest, I don't think that's on our radar as a priority. And the Smithfield, which was presented last month, clearly bocce was not one of those in the top list of probably top 10 or 15 items that came out of that conversation. Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, but you see, have you talked to all the seniors that live in the senior area? That's like, I mean, they're not normally going to come out to Smithfield unless they have a little dog. And
but
otherwise,
don't the seniors have bocce? They have a bocce court in the senior center.
Huh?
They have bocce in their senior center. Unless they removed it, they have at least one bocce court, if not two. It's one of the only places in Half Moon Bay and the Ritz where they're official.
I don't. What do you think in Kenyatta Cove? Because there's nothing.
No. The senior center by Seacrest has 2 bocce courts. At least it did 4 years ago, before the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen them.
Myself to research this a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go also. Have you seen them, Hillary?
Yeah. Yeah. Go to the very back where they have these big gardens. Yeah. But so in any event, we should move on. I love bocce. I agree that it would be good to put someplace. But I understand exactly what you're saying, Matthew, and I think that makes sense.
And I did just pull up an aerial, and I don't know how old this aerial is. It says copyright 2022, but in the very back of Bloom Lane, where the gardens are, there's 2 courts.
Yep.
Side by, they're in tandem.
And like, this is very exciting.
Yeah, I've never seen them in use.
We delivered.
Done.
It's definitely on my list tomorrow. Go check it out.
We definitely want during our updates next month. We're going to get a report on that from several of us, I think. Cool.
I'm telling you, I have walked everywhere in this community. It is the resource I bring you guys.
Excellent.
Something to consider in future developments is adding a bocce court.
Right. I think that's what we were saying, is that as part of a bigger project.
Yes.
Of course, but this idea that we would instantly do one this year, I don't think is realistic.
Well, I think you have to look at the whole. I live at Kenyatta Cove, and I play twice a week. I play bocce, and we have quite a crew. But we're residents
at Kenyatta Cove.
Yes, at Kenyatta Cove. Yes. And it takes more than just putting in a bocce court. You know, it takes quite a bit. I mean, it's a project. That's why what I'm looking at is if we talk about, you know, developing a park at Magnolia Park or whatever, even at Smith Field, is to incorporate it in the project, is to have bocce available. So, you know, it's very interesting. But I think it takes a lot more than just having a bocce court, period. So anyway, just FYI.
Are you saying that there's bocce ball courts at Kenyatta Cove as well?
Yeah, we have a bocce ball
but that's for the residents. It's not a public court.
I'm just getting a feel for how many bocce courts. This is good to know.
Yeah. And it's been there for a while.
Especially if the people who are asking for bocce courts actually have bocce courts.
Yes, exactly.
Particularly interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like getting a Ferris wheel. So, you know, that's what I want downtown for one of the 4th of Julys, you know? But anyway, it's something to think about.
Other questions about what's going on with the future projects or the presentation?
It's a very robust list. I love it.
Yeah, good.
It's a lot of projects. I just want to say back to the coastal trail piece. The addition you guys did from Railroad to Poplar Beach is absolutely fantastic, and has the way in which you can interact with that trail now as you pass by people, dogs, this, that. It was just, you did such a great job on that. I just want to thank you. So I'll leave it there.
And thank you. That was Jonathan's first project manager job there. So
wow.
So take a bow, Jonathan.
I appreciate it every single day. Especially after my knee surgery.
Let's not forget we had a persistent mayor that prioritized that.
Oh golly, who was that? Did you have a question, Hillary, on the money side? You'd stopped us at the money side, or were you just asking other questions about Poplar stuff more?
So I'm trying to hold myself back from making a comment about the money. So I think I won't. I will not say it. The only other thing I will mention, though, is, you know, Kitty Fernandez Park is an interesting one, because I'll say park with quotes, because I actually think you can't really do anything there. And we laugh about it every time we walk through that park. And I did think to myself that it would fit bocce courts.
Well, the bocce would get in the way of the driveway, though, I think.
Yeah.
I don't go there.
But my legitimate question is this. Not for maybe this budget, but it's worth considering the question, how or what ways could that park be more actually an attraction that draws people to it instead of a cement jungle?
Chair, you are asking a fabulous question, and Bob has been spearheading, along with our with Karen and Matthew and our CRY team, the economic recovery folks, the whole downtown idea and planning and looking at streetscape and all of those issues. And I can tell you, we just had a conversation earlier in the week and last week even a little bit about this very thing. And Kitty Fernandez is absolutely on our radar for looking at that in the context of sort of a critical point in that downtown revitalization effort and everything like that deal. So I assure you that is on our list, and it's just not showing up as much on the parks side right now, but it will sort of look at that more comprehensively. But really, excuse me, in the context of sort of tying Mac Dutra you know, to Kitty Fernandez and that whole connection there. And obviously the library as public spaces. So it's there. It's in there, and if you when you look at the what we present to the council, you'll see funding in there for the Main Street revitalization project work. It's in there.
Okay. All right. So I thought of a way to mention the budget question that is hopefully not going to make people upset. My one comment is when I look at this deficit and I think of all the amazing things that you guys like, that everyone wants. When I think about some of the like deep thinking that went into the Poplar Street project, I just would hope that we don't spend excessive amounts of money on Poplar Street that we don't need to in order to get the results that we want. So I know that a lot of that is tied up in like how the grant works, but certainly on the west side of Highway 1 with these two large paths, I have constantly asked the question, is there a way to just have a single path, like a 6-foot paved instead of 5-foot paved that would fit people, and how much money would you save? And so I know that the horse has left the barn on this, but I certainly, like, when I just think about our money and I think about how much we could do for the community, I hate the idea of wasting any of it. So
we certainly understand that as staff, and I would also say that we're also looking at funding that is primarily restricted to street and work with that. And again, as Jonathan started the conversation, one of our primary goals of this is to address ADA compliance and to help our seniors move along. And Jonathan went out, met with an individual in another neighborhood, looking at the curb issues and paths of travel. So we're constantly looking at this. So we understand that. And we look at all of these, and that's the best we can do, and I think we have been extremely good at protecting the public interest. I will say this, and it's not related to that issue. One of the things that we're looking at is trying to focus on maintenance a little more and some major maintenance projects. And I'll bang the drum, which was actually rang. The drums were banged and the bells rung when we started doing parks master planning and the pedestrian bike work as well, that the community said, be careful about building what you can't maintain. So I think that we are going to have to continue to be looking at that issue across the board on all of our projects and things. And I don't want to throw a wet blanket out there and deal with it, but there are challenges and issues to maintain. And again, for 22-23, we are really trying to focus on some of the deferred maintenance on the paths and trails that really need to be addressed. And there's more that is needed. But our objective for this year is to start to look at a 10-year plan for maintenance and ultimately capital repair replacement of our trails and paths. So that's to come, and we'll certainly be working with you in the BPAC as we move forward in that endeavor.
Speaking of the trails again, too, one last question I had was with regard to the to Coastside Land Trust Bird Trail expansion. Does the city need to do anything to support moving that project forward? I know that Coastside Land Trust is working so hard to secure the funds for this. It's mostly, it's basically being driven by Coastside Land Trust, but do they need city support? And how do we find out if that's the case?
Well, they are, their first thing that we're doing to help them is to process their coastal development permit. And the Coastal Commission weighed in on their biotic study and report, and in many respects sent them back to the drawing board on some issues that they needed to deal with. And that's why there's been a delay in the coastal development permit process. So my understanding is that's they are getting ready to submit or have submitted the revised and updated materials, and I think moving that forward. So first and foremost, in order for them to be successful at grant getting, they need to have a permitted project. So that's really the first and foremost thing that we can do, and are helping them work through that issue and that effort. I think as a community, when the last time we posted that, because we thought we were going to go to hearing, there were individuals removing the public notice signs and writing interesting notes on it and sending notes to staff with that deal. And I won't go into a lot of my personal feelings about that. But certainly, I think there are issues with some of neighboring folks there that don't necessarily want improvements there. So as a community, I think those who think that extension of Coastal Trail are going to have to be engaged and get out there when this item comes along and provide the support for Coastside Land Trust as they go through the public process, and to support the Planning Commission as they deal with this. And ultimately, if there's an appeal, the City Council, and ultimately, if there's an appeal, the Coastal Commission process as well. So that's sort of the reality of that. So first and foremost, they need to get entitled so they're more and better positioned for grant eligibility. And Bob, along with staff, have regularly met with Coastside Land Trust, and we have a collaborative and a working relationship, and we'll continue to support them and work through the issues of granting them the access to the public streets, because remember these trails are going over actually dedicated public streets that have been accepted by the county. So we have been working with this Coastside Land Trust on license agreements for that property. So that there's a lot going on, sort of the duck, you don't see the legs, moving quickly under the water, but there is, the duck's legs are moving furiously, feverishly, and we are working with them on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you have a partner that's going to do all that work to provide the benefit to the community. So thank you.
Bob, did you have anything to add?
I was just gonna, you said it. I mean, they have to raise significant funds, unless they've raised funds in the last couple of years that I'm not aware of. When it was first introduced to me 4 years ago, I think she said the price tag was $5 to $6 million. I have to imagine it's closer to 10 today. And I know they applied for a grant 2 years ago that they did not get. And so John's right, getting the permits helps, but I think I think there's significant funds that they need to raise. It includes not one, but two vertical accesses down to the beach. And those are not cheap, plus the parking
lots as well.
It's not it's not an inexpensive project. Okay. They're not gonna, I don't see how they're gonna be able to get that project done without some support from the city at some point. I mean, we're gonna have to help them.
Support's gonna be needed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, because it seems like a big project, and I wasn't sure how much city help was needed now versus later, and it sounds like you guys are doing what you can now.
And like we look at many of our projects, they're going to have to look at a phased approach, I'm sure, to it in the end, to figure out, how to prioritize and financially deal with that. I don't, the thought that all of that could be done in a single phase in a single project these days with the cost escalations that have occurred, I don't know.
Well, I think that sometimes it's the grants, right, that are blocking the phased projects, isn't it?
Somewhat. Although I think if you can complete the trail and the path, and do some of those things and deal with it, that's a very, very supportable grant application. But as Commissioner Eisen pointed out, there is a need for parking, and so those are also issues. Restroom facilities, the plan includes restroom facilities, which really is necessary there. You're away from things, and otherwise we'll get that. So, I mean, we're getting into the weeds a bit with this, but obviously, but there's a lot to that project, and at some point, I think it would be worthwhile, along with perhaps at the time when the CDP is coming forward, that maybe we can schedule Coastside Land Trust to do an overview with the Parks and Rec Commission of their plans and of the project itself. It's probably worthwhile to do that, and if the commission is interested in that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the main thing that struck me was just that plan was nowhere on any of the city documents that we just looked at. And I know that it's not the city's plan. So the city would be playing more of a support role, it sounds like, but still it's the city's time. So if we are spending city time on it, it seems like maybe it should be on there, because then you also get to declare victory when it finally does. Well,
remember, you're seeing only one. You're seeing only one piece of the budget piece, which is the capital budget. Mm-hmm. There's the operating budget. That's where a lot of the work and the time that comes to investing in Parks and Rec Commission, Planning Commission, all those things is included within our operating budgets. But as Bob and Matthew will tell you, the challenge and issue is that balancing the statutory things that we have to do, the desires of the community, on just dealing with problem neighbors or whatever it might be, and dealing with and going out and responding to questions about access and things versus doing projects. It's a challenge to balance those with a very small staff that the city has and operates with.
I certainly appreciate all the calls that the city gets on to do all these things. So thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Just get to it.
Again, thank you for hosting us tonight and allowing us to come
thanks for all the work that you put into it.
And a nice reception that we got. I appreciate it, and a healthy dialogue. It's good.
That's good to, we appreciate your work. Thank you guys. That's a lot that went into it. Thank you.
Yep. I'm excited about all the stuff.
Definitely.
All right.
That is our last item. We have future items preview. We've already covered a couple things. You'll see some public art items coming at if not the May meeting, probably the June meeting. And then John confirming Smithfield will be coming back with the revised plans and a further discussion on that project in May.
Yes.
Great.
And I think I'm excited about it. I've seen some of the interim work and everything deal, so I'm pretty excited about. I think the hybrid that you're plan that you're going to see from your input was valuable, was invaluable in these inputs. So I'm excited coming back with it.
Me too. I can't wait to see it.
Definitely.
Okay, so
the only other item is just commissioner report outs. If any commissioners attended meetings or needed to report any of their activities in the last month.
Okay, well, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Wildflower Day, which was very nice. They put together, as we all know, 2 years, nothing. So it's like gearing up again. But they did a nice job there. But I talked to Joe Rogers, who is the guy who actually put it together, and talked to him about the idea of us combining our Earth Day with the wildflower thing, so that this way we can easily and readily make for a bigger deal of what's going on and having it on the same day. He was totally open to it. He thought it was a good idea. And so, for instance, if we have our morning, because they start at like 11 or noon, you know, if we had our morning, what we normally do with the composting and the shredding and all that, and all of that, and then, you know, have information about wildflower, that's what's going on at the state park. I mean, that alone can enlarge and enhance our Earth Day without putting a lot of additional effort, time, because as we keep looking, staff time is, you know, it's difficult to get all these things that we'd love to get done. All right. So that's a way to enhance our whole thing if it's if these things are combined. Great. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we can absolutely explore that. I can connect. It looks like we've already lost Public Works, but I'll share that with them. Yeah. And the chamber is another big partner in all this.
Right.
And then as we've talked about before, and we had hoped to get something on the schedule this year, but CLT couldn't commit, is some sort of nature walks and some other things. So I think, yeah, there is an opportunity for all of that. And
because I have to say, Matthew, I sat there for quite a while at the booth, and the people who came over, there were a few locals, but most everyone that was coming over were not locals. So our local population is either not fully aware, you know, I mean, you know how difficult it is to get our residents aware of any function that is going on in the town. So they were not, you know, a lot of people not aware, but if we make a bigger deal by combining this, I think that, because there's some wonderful things. First of all, there's wonderful organizations that come out there. There's great things for the kids in terms of identifying flowers and plants and, you know, and birds and, you know, and all kinds of things. Their natural habitat that surrounds them. And so I would, you know, of course, would love to see more local kids, not kids from, I mean, great for you're over the hill, you're still learning something, but I'd like to see our, you know, our own coastside children, especially learning about their surrounding environment.
I love the idea of combining the days.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I love the idea of combining efforts.
Oh, great, yeah.
I've always liked the Wildflower Day, and actually I thought it was from the city. But
there you go.
We should combine them.
Yeah. All right, so so if you need that contact information, I've got it.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just emailing it to me, that way
I will. Yeah, I'll do that.
Get the ball rolling.
Any other report outs? Okay, what's the next step, Matt? Oops, you're muted.
We adjourn the meeting and call it a successful night.
Okay, so do we make a motion to adjourn?
No, you can just adjourn it.
Okay, everyone, the meeting is adjourned.
And a successful night.
Yeah. Good night.
Get that. Hey,
All right,
job,
good night,
Maggie.
everyone.
Good to have Maggie here. She was a calming influence, and
thank you.
Keep that up. We got to balance Eddie and I.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
Thanks,
All right,
Matthew.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.